Have you ever wanted to know the logic and leadership approach of the Leadership Society of Arizona? The information measurement theory is the approach behind LSA as well as PBSRG, the world's most successful research group, which has delivered 98% of their $6.6 billion worth of services on time, on budget, and with high customer satisfaction. Listen here to learn more about how you can apply this information measurement theory for greater success in your personal and professional life.
Welcome to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast, episode 59.
Everyone wants happiness and success, and we know how to get you there. Come listen to the Leadership Society of Arizona as we teach a proven logic to help you simplify life, overcome challenges, and predict the future. You're listening to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast. Welcome to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast. My name is Chuck Zalanis, and I'm joined by our very special guest, Dr. Jacob Kashiwagi. Today, we're going to talk about the most exciting development in the history of this group. It is the information measurement theory. This information measurement theory was the foundation for the teaching at the Leadership Society of Arizona. It's how they have developed their success coaching and all of their classes, but it also was the foundation for one of the most successful project management and procurement approaches in the world. It's delivered $6.6 billion worth of services. It's called the best value approach, and it delivers those projects and services 98% on time, on budget, with high customer satisfaction across all industries, which is pretty amazing. So let's talk a little bit about what is this information measurement theory and where did it come from?
Okay, well, information measurement theory, it was developed through research that my father originally started, Dr. Dean, and yes, then it developed into a graduate curriculum at Arizona State University, in which we taught multiple classes and did all sorts of stuff with. But where did it come from? That's a good question, Chuck. I would like to say that we invented it, but we really did not. We did research on the concepts and ideas. But in reality, information measurement theory was just accurate ideas and concepts that have been taken from successful people and observation of reality throughout all time. And so if you actually look at the concepts, you'll find all of these concepts align with correct principles that other people have used in multiple industries to become very successful, to create new inventions, or progress in innovation and technology in their areas. And so whether it was, martial arts with Bruce Lee, or whether it's, philosophy with Socrates, or any other realm, even sports, whatever it might be, these concepts were all derived or all taken and created into the information measurement theory.
So you just analyzed a bunch of different patterns, found a way to write them all down, and boom, information measurement theory. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, that is exactly what I'm saying. Okay. That's what happened.
Well, it's kind of a lot to for something to be so successful, you really have to have an eye for what makes a logical process, or what makes something like really successful. What is the crux of the success behind this idea? I can't say that a whole lot of people have that ability to see that. So how were you and your father able to see that when everyone else has a little harder time?
I don't know the answer to that. And oftentimes when people create innovation, the reason they're able to do it more than anyone else in their field is usually because they kind of they're able to take things from other areas into their own expertise. And so we're engineers by background. Many times engineers don't get into like philosophy or psychology. They don't get into things of that nature. They're engineers. They're into math and physics and sciences. And so maybe that could be part of it is we've taken concepts and ideas out of psychology and humanistic type career fields and brought it into an engineering model. And so maybe it's because we're able to take something outside of our realm and use it and be able to understand it and integrate it into an engineering concept and more of a logical, mathematical based type thing that we're able to see this idea and create this process.
Okay, so what are some of these concepts? What are some of these ideas?
So the first concept that surrounds information measurement theory, that is the most crucial, one that we did not get from engineering, because engineers think they know everything. But the concept we found is that we know nothing. And basically the information measurement theory, in order to use it correctly and understand it, you have to realize that you know nothing.
Like nothing at all? Like I can't think, I can't do anything, like I'm just terrible at everything?
Pretty much, because the idea here, information measurement, is identifying that in order to be able to identify something and know what's going on, you have to be able to get information from the outside and be able to measure it. And that comes from the science portion. And so basically what we're saying is you don't know anything unless you have the proof. And the proof has to be measurable. It can't be someone's opinion. So you have to assume you know nothing unless it's so dominant like this. This is what we call dominant because if I release it, everyone knows it's going down.
Yeah, so you're raising a water bottle suspended above the air. If you release that water bottle, it's going to fall.
Now that's something that people can observe and know, yes, it's going to fall.
Okay.
Right? But even then, there's actual proof to it. You can see it. It's it's here, this height right now. It's going to be a certain height later after I release it. But we have to know that we don't know anything, because when you don't know anything, then you don't have to use your mind, because if there's nothing in the mind, you don't use it. Means you have to observe it. It has to be something that's measurable from the outside. That makes it very simple.
Well, I feel like that sort of tendency requires you to use a lot of self-control to not make an assumption or to not start thinking or to not use your biases when making a decision.
True. It is true. And because of education nowadays, and probably the time that you grew up, you were probably taught and you had to practice using your mind a lot. And so now it's even harder for you because you've been raised to use your mind so much. And what we're trying to do, and what information measurement theory does, is it tells you first off, you have to stop using your mind because you don't know anything.
Okay. All right, so this concept of not knowing anything is the idea that you're open to new ideas, right? It's not that like you have no knowledge, you have no IQ. It's saying that you have an open mind to what actually occurs, the proof, and you're willing to follow the proof wherever it leads.
Correct. It means you don't use your head. You might have something in it, but you don't use it. Because in order to observe, in order to know that you need to collect certain piece of information, be able to measure it, there has to be a reason for it. If you think you know it, there's no reason to do it. And that's where people get in trouble. They think they know. They think they understand. And information measurement theory, it eliminates the thinking. It tells you can't think. If you have to think, you don't know. You got to go collect information and measure it and be able to actually have the evidence for it.
All right, well, let's go into an example. We can use a technical example, like something that you use on a project, and then something that you use in success coaching. So let's walk through one of the more technical examples on projects where people think they know.
The biggest one is knowing who's the expert. So they did the study in the Netherlands. They compared professionals, people who pick who should work on a project. And they had this computer program, and then they had students who knew nothing. And they had them all select, like they're you need work done on a project, and there's all these people. The professionals, you would think that do this for a living, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they're going out and they're saying, well, we should hire this person or we should hire this person. And they talk to these people and they get the information they need. Then they have a computer program where you just plug the information in and the computer program spits out, this is the best person for the job. And then you have the students who know nothing. And they get whatever information they want and they pick. What they find out is the computer program scored the highest in selecting the right person, the right professional. Then you have the students scored the second highest, and the professionals scored the lowest. And what this study found is that the professionals used their experience and what they thought and how they felt about things more than using the information that was provided or that was available. And so what you start finding is, even in selecting the contractor to build your building or the food service vendor to provide the food for your catering job, people who feel or think that they're really good at this, instead of actually getting rid of their bias and looking at how good these people are, they're using their professional experience and bias, and they think they know the best person for the job, and in reality, they have no clue.
You're talking about like Moneyball type stuff. You've watched the movie Moneyball, right? Where they use statistics to pick their team rather than any other extraneous data, like about their personalities or whatever, which the professionals had used for years and years and years. And they entirely changed the game because everyone realized that that is a lot more effective.
And that is exactly what information measurement theory identifies, is that when you look at certain pieces of information that's measurable, that can differentiate people or individuals or things, it gives you a much more accurate reading on reality than using your head.
Okay. All right. Let's go into a student example, one that you use for like success coaching.
Well, this is for a lot of different things. It could be a student who thinks that they don't waste a lot of time. So I say, instead of thinking that you don't waste time, why don't we just track your time? You look at every hour of the day and identify what you're doing. And probably 80% of the time, the student finds out they're wasting 10 times more time than they thought they were. I've done this with my own life when I was young, and many of the LSA staff has done it with their own life. oftentimes you think you know what you're doing with your time, or you think you know how well or productive you are, and then you start to measure and you find out you're really a lot worse than you thought. It
I
could
had that experience, yeah, when I started tracking the time with you guys.
and it could be, a parent who thinks my child is really good at something, or my child should be better at something. And then when you actually measure it or track it, you start realizing, yes, they might not be as good as you think, right? They might not be lazy, they might just not be as good as you think about it, as you think they are about it. And the only way you know that is if you really track how much time a student is spending on something. It could be a parent thinking their child spends too much time on video games. So oftentimes what we'll have is the child actually measure it with the parent. So then the parent can actually see how much time they're spending on video games. And more often than not, a lot less than the parent thinks, right? It's just when the parent sees a child playing video games whenever they look, they think it's a lot. But it's just because every time the parent's looking, that's when the child's playing the video games, not because they're on it 24/7. So these are some examples of when you think you know, you get it wrong. And when you use the information measurement theory logic, which is I don't know, measure it, see what it actually is, and then we can understand reality.
Yeah, that's good to remember. I think a lot of us assume that we know better, that we know what's right, we know what's best, and often we don't. I remember you were talking to me about the lessons from Moana, and everyone in Moana's town was saying you can't go out into the ocean, you can't go anywhere off of the island. But of course, the island's dying, and they need to find a different solution. But it's just a lot of us are shaped based off of our beliefs that we've grown up with, or the traditions that we've had, and we don't think anything else could be better. And so, yeah.
Yes, there's a religious saying with that. It's in Christianity. It's Jesus Christ would always tell the people, "I'm not come to bring peace, but the sword. I come to turn the daughter against the mother and the son against the father." And it's kind of a weird thing for a religion that believes so much in peace, right? But basically, what Jesus Christ was saying was that if you're going to progress and be better, then you have to change. But change is tough because you have to get out of your head. You have to get out of what your culture thinks, what you grew up thinking is right. And you have to open your mind more and actually be open to, hey, things could be different. And the only way to do that is to realize that you don't know nothing. You don't know anything. That everything you thought was right, everything you grew up believing was right, everything you were told growing up, everything's on the table that it could be wrong. You could have been doing something wrong your entire life. But this is a tough thing because it takes a lot of humility, is what they call it.
Yeah, that's tough to acquire.
And that's why many people they don't buy into the IMT philosophy. Because in order to buy into the IMT philosophy, you have to believe that you don't know anything.
Tough pill to swallow, huh?
It's a very tough pill, especially for a young Asian.
Yeah, it's probably tough for anyone. I mean, I know that a lot of the concepts when I was taking the class at Arizona State University, I was listening to them and I was just arguing most of the class and I was very vocal, and I would talk almost the whole time. I would have thought you guys would like say, stop. so, stop arguing, but I guess it made a lively discussion enough that I eventually calmed down and realized, well, maybe I'm a little off on this.
Well, you helped a lot of other people learn a lot of lessons.
Well, hey, I guess someone's got to go through the wall.
It is true, but you did figure it out, so that is to your benefit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. So how can you take a more humble or more of an approach that you don't know anything in life? What is it that you can do to implement that?
So the first principle of IMT is that when you have the correct information, it doesn't require any communication. Hence, the more communication you have, the more it should hint you off that maybe you're not seeing things accurately. So the first thing or piece of advice is talk less. Listen more. If you want to take an approach that you don't know anything, then you stop talking and you start listening. This should not be a new concept for many people. It is an ancient, taught forever type leadership concept that that is very commonly talked about, actually. Listen more, talk less.
Okay.
Second, measure. That's why I call it information measurement theory. Measure things. All we want to know is what's the difference, right? So the best way to really differentiate things so you can know what's the difference between that and this or this and that is through numbers. Measure things with numbers. If you think that you don't talk so much, well, then identify how many times or how long a day do you talk? How long do your conversations last? If you think that you don't say when you present, then have someone track how many times you say in a presentation, right?
Or you could record yourself on a podcast with Dr. Jacob and then edit the video later.
And to be honest with you, I don't even know how many times I say I might even have a problem with that, but I never measured it, so I don't know. But when you measure it, when you actually track how many times, what do I do, how long do I do it, how many of these things are there, right? When you do that, it will help you to be able to identify reality instead of thinking you know, actually looking at the information and knowing. Third, get a mentor. Mentors will help you to realize that you know nothing. And the fourth, which is the easiest, you don't have to do anything, just live life. Go out and do new things. If you think you know the best route, then do it. But make sure you're observing and watching what becomes of it. Because if you just go out and do things, and then you look at what the outcome is compared to what you thought the outcome was going to be, you will quickly figure out if you're doing the right thing or not, if you knew or you didn't. And more than likely, most of the time, you're going to find out you didn't know. And because of that, it will help you to actually realize you don't know anything. And so those are my 4 pieces of advice for you. listen, measure, get a mentor, and then the last and easiest, go out, do new things, try your ideas out.
And see what comes of it. All right. Well, I appreciate the advice and thank you for explaining that. Thank you so much. Thank you, listeners, for listening and viewers for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you for listening to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast. It would be great if you could take a moment to write us a review. For any questions, comments, or topics that you would like to have addressed on the show, email the team at leadaz.org. To learn more about the Leadership Society of Arizona, visit us at leadaz.org.